Welcome back, everyone. So let's just dive right into this. If you're working in tech or honestly any kind of knowledge work today, you are definitely navigating this incredibly fast-paced AI-assisted workspace. And yeah, it can feel pretty overwhelming, but it really doesn't have to be. Today's explainer breaks down a truly insightful analysis by Sriram Gopalan. He's a seasoned tech executive who scaled businesses at places like Amazon, Salesforce, and Disney. He recently laid out exactly how the value of engineering and leadership skills is shifting like right beneath our feet. We're going to look closely at what's losing value and, far more importantly, what is gaining immense value today.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover when AI writes code, the tactics that now fail, the skills that matter, developing judgment and systems, and finally, future-proofing your career.
All right, let's jump straight into part one, when AI writes code.
We are quite literally living through a massive paradigm shift right now as AI takes over the heavy lifting of code implementation. I want to highlight this really powerful thesis from Sriram to kind of set the stage for us. For years, right, the thing that made a senior engineer or a tech leader so valuable was their accumulated knowledge. It was the specific frameworks they'd memorized, the obscure systems they debugged, the random errors they recognized, and while that tacit knowledge is still useful, but the core basis of a tech professional's value, it's fundamentally changing. When an AI can pump out a totally reasonable first draft of almost any function in seconds, just knowing things just isn't enough anymore.
Think about the old era of work. Your value was practically being a walking encyclopedia of tooling, syntax, and frameworks. But look at this new era. It's no longer about information retrieval. It's entirely about how you contextualize that information. Your mental models, your systems thinking, and your ability to reason through deep ambiguity, that is what takes center stage now.
Moving right along to Section 2, Tactics that now fail. Because of this massive shift we just talked about, survival tactics that used to look like competence are actually active liabilities today. Let's walk through these three. First up, knowledge hoarding. Second is command and control leadership. You know, the kind of leader who just issues directives without actually building their team's capacity to adapt. That totally fails now, because the quote-unquote right answer changes way faster than a rigid hierarchy can process. And third, rigid, credential-based authority. Leaning on the whole "I've done this for 20 years" argument, it's incredibly weak today. Why? Well, because a generative AI tool can run 2 decades worth of pattern recognition in about 2 minutes. Experience still matters for sure, but its value is in your judgment, not just the fact that you've used a tool before.
Take the knowledge hoarder, for example. We all know this person, right? They're the single gatekeeper you absolutely have to go through because only they understand how some critical legacy system works. That actually used to be a pretty good defensive strategy for job security. But in an AI-assisted world, that bottleneck is super fragile. AI just routes right around it. A motivated junior employee with a decent AI tool can gather enough context to completely bypass that gatekeeper. So, hoarding information, it's a completely obsolete career strategy now.
Okay, Section 3. The skills that matter.
So if knowing syntax and hoarding knowledge are out, what actually differentiates us from a large language model? According to the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, the most coveted skills right now include empathy, motivation, self-awareness, and active listening. And I need to make this absolutely crystal clear. Emphasizing soft skills isn't just some nice corporate HR sentiment. This is a direct, hard-nosed market response to what AI simply can't do. Employers are literally just buying the capabilities that algorithms can't execute.
Let's look at the EPOC framework from MIT Sloan. This maps out the exact human capabilities AI is least likely to replace. While AI handles drafting the code and answering well-specified queries, humans hold the EPOC clusters: empathy, presence, opinion and judgment, creativity, and hope and leadership vision. These are not just peripheral nice-to-have bonuses anymore. They are the absolute core of what differentiates a true leader from a highly capable individual contributor right now.
So the crucial point here is how we actually define emotional intelligence, or EQ. We've got to de-jargonize it a bit. Harvard psychologists break it down into rigorous, really specific competencies. It's the active practice of noticing your own internal emotional states, managing those personal responses, accurately reading other people, and then using that awareness to navigate conflict. Look, AI is making a lot of people in the workforce pretty anxious right now. And when a team is anxious, they need a leader who can build trust and manage that anxiety. An LLM absolutely cannot do that. Only genuine human attention can.
Which brings us to Section 4. Developing judgment and systems.
It's one thing to just sit here and say, hey, you need systems thinking and judgment, but how do you actually practice that? If you want actionable ways to develop systems thinking today, guide yourself through these concrete steps.
As AI handles the implementation details, like literally writing the lines of code, your job shifts to understanding how the whole puzzle fits together. So first, actively identify the leverage points in your company's systems. Second, physically map out what breaks downstream when one upstream component changes. And third, force yourself to write down the second-order effects of a technical decision before you make it. This is the big difference between merely knowing how a function works and understanding why that function actually matters to the business.
Next up, let's look at actionable ways to develop judgment. AI is phenomenal at well-specified problems, right? But it is notoriously fragile when things get murky. So your move is to run toward the ambiguity. First, deliberately target genuinely novel situations where the rules haven't even been written yet. Second, volunteer to be the one who clarifies heavily contested constraints across different departments. And third, you have to recognize when a decision requires weighting human values, things like fairness, trust, or brand reputation, rather than just pure mathematical optimization.
And honestly, this all brings us to communication and persuasion, which are essentially your new superpowers. AI's absolute limit is that it can generate a highly competent draft or memo. But your leverage? You can take that draft and actually advocate for it. You can look at the faces in a meeting room, read the skepticism in real time, adjust your tone on the fly, and build the coalition necessary to actually move the organization forward. The AI writes the pitch, you win the room.
Finally, let's hit Section 5, future-proofing your career.
Let's see how all this builds into your broader trajectory. If you are interviewing today, or hey, if you're the one hiring, the traits you're looking for have totally shifted. Leaders want a visible willingness to learn, meaning you openly try new tools and talk about them. They want people who treat failure as data, not as some huge embarrassment. Crucially, they're looking for leaders who ask, how can AI free my team to do more interesting work, rather than leaders who just see AI as a quick way to cut headcount. And finally, genuine proximity to the user. Because AI can build almost anything now, the most valuable skill is knowing what's actually worth building for the customer in the first place.
All right, let's address the elephant in the room. There is a lot of anxiety surrounding tech layoffs right now. The quiet question everyone is asking themselves is, how do you become the person they cut last?
Sriram Gopalan argues we have to change the entire frame of that question. Operating from the old fear, how do I make sure I don't get laid off? Well, that just leads you to defensive behaviors like knowledge hoarding, which we already established is a totally failing tactic. But shifting your perspective to the new frame, how do I generate more value as the tools get more powerful? That naturally points you in the right direction. It forces you to develop the contextual business knowledge, the judgment, and those cross-functional relationships that compound over time. And those simply cannot be replicated by a better AI prompt.
I really want to leave you with this reassuring reality. The skills that matter more in an AI-augmented world are, almost without exception, the exact same skills that make someone a better colleague, a better leader, and frankly, just a much more interesting person to work with. Leaning into your humanity, your empathy, your judgment, your ability to connect the dots between people and systems. That is your ultimate career moat.
So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. Which of these fundamentally human skills, systems thinking, judgment under ambiguity, emotional intelligence, or coalition building, are you actively working on right now? Think about how you can practice them today. If you found this explainer valuable, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the future of work and how to thrive in it. Thanks for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next one.